Welcome back to Winning Hand, the podcast about Marvel Champions one card at a time. I am Boom Guy, and I have traveled through time and space with planes, trains, and automobiles across the land to and from Minneapolis, Minnesota. That's right, we are back for the Con of Heroes recap episode. This is a special episode, and I traveled many hours, and I got in 27 games over the weekend. Keiko, how many games did you play this weekend?
I don't know. It's actually hard to keep track, but definitely more than enough to satiate my Marvel Champions needs. It was a worthwhile weekend.
Yeah. So like I said, I'm Boom Guy. I'm here with Keiko. If you listened to the last episode, then you know that Keiko has stepped away or is in the process of stepping away from the podcast. But he came to the con, so he wanted to come on and help to recap what we did, what we saw, and how much fun it was. So let's just get right into it. I think we should start with just kind of walking through what the con is and what we did there. So for anyone who does not know, who didn't go to the Con of Heroes or maybe new to the game, Keiko, why don't you tell us what is the Con of Heroes?
So the Con of Heroes is basically a place for all fans, Marvel Champions, to come together in one location within the Twin Cities to just come together, have fun, get to know each other, deck build with each other, play with each other. Like, it is a place of camaraderie to come together, and it's so much fun. I love it. This is my second one. And, I mean, I'd want to come to all of them.
If you love Marvel Champions, it's really the place to be. It is the convention nationwide, worldwide, as far as I know.
Yeah, we did get some out of countries.
We did.
Coming in.
Yeah, it's put together by fans, for fans. So special thanks and shout out to Hone and Kennedy Hawk and Americano and Mag for putting it all together, for organizing it, for booking the venues, for planning the events, for making the cards, all that stuff. It's incredible. Yeah, I can't thank those guys enough. They really have done a ton of work. I can't imagine doing all that on top of everything else they do.
Yeah, because they designed cards, they designed art, mats, coins. They had raffles going. No, it was really well put together.
It's a ton of stuff to organize, and on top of all the other stuff they have going on. So the fact that they keep doing that every year is awesome. So thank you guys. Really, really, really appreciate it. So this is the third year that the con has existed, and I have been to all three. So I have a little bit of context now as we've gone year over year to kind of compare them. But I just want to talk through quickly kind of what it is. So Keiko touched on generally what it is. I'll just walk through the schedule of events and kind of talk. We can kind of discuss each one a little bit. It officially starts on Friday. So Friday, May 3rd, 2024 was the beginning of it. But I arrived in town on Thursday, May 2nd, and there is kind of an unofficial meetup at the hotel. There's a block of rooms that was reserved. So most people, I think, that came from out of town were staying at that hotel. It's right by the convention. So we played there in the lobby. It started, I think, at 7-ish, and we played there until late into the night, and it's great fun. Then Friday, officially, everything kicks off. So Game Center opens at 1 p.m., which is a little bit later than in past. It was kind of a bummer, but thankfully, the organizers of the con did reserve an extra room at the hotel, so people who are local could come in and play there, but people who traveled and were staying in the hotel, it was a little better than the lobby. There's like real tables you could sit at. So we had breakfast there, and then we just played games all morning until Game Center opened. And then it opened, and the first event started at 2 p.m., and it was what was called the Mutant Massacre. Mutant Massacre was the group play that we did. I think the very first year we did a group where we tried to kill as many Ultron drones as possible, so everyone played the Ultron scenario together. I can't remember what it was last year, the first event. Do you remember, Keiko?
I don't remember the first one. I only remember the America Chavez.
Yeah, that was the big one. Anyway, this time we all played the Morlock Siege scenario. We played against the Marauders, and the idea was we had to kill every Marauder, I think, 10 times as a group. So we all went through and we were battling the Marauders and playing the scenario, and it was fun. So every time you killed one, you ran up to the front, and they had a big board, and you would put a sticker up there and, demarcate that you killed which of the Morlocks, and then go back to your table and keep going to the next one. And then the scenario kind of organizers, the con organizers, were counting, and then they would shout out, how many we were done at a given time. And then when it was all done, we all got a little sticker, which is exclusive, that says you survived the Mutant Massacre at Con of Heroes 2024. What did you think of that one?
I do think that was fun as well, because everybody was kind of fighting the same few villains, but in different orders. So as some tables were defeating, one of the villains, you see the sticker go up, and I don't remember at what number you had to cross for each villain to be defeated.
I think they all had to be killed 10 times, right?
10 times.
Yeah.
So that was really cool to see, like, as the different stickers are going up on the different villains. But, and I there was this cool sub-objective too that just kind of added another layer of difficulty, which was everybody with the Morlock ally had to keep them alive.
Yeah.
The whole room. And I think there was supposedly a reward for keeping every Morlock alive, but unfortunately we lost 3 Morlocks. But in a room of 100 plus, like, only 3 Morlocks going down, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. No, that's the basic scenario, right? I think in the scenario you have to keep your Morlock ally alive, and that was the same here. And we tried to keep them all alive, but only losing 2 or 3 in that many, like you said, is quite an achievement. So you mentioned over 100 people in the room. I think we should touch on that quickly before we move on. Like, there was, according to Kennedy Hawk and Hone that I talked to, some of the organizers, they said there was 140 tickets sold this year, which is a good number. It was just around 100 last year, and it was between 80 and 90 the first year. So the con is growing year over year, which is great to see. It's awesome to see new people coming. There was a lot of returning faces, but obviously there was also a lot of new people. So it was really, really cool. I hope everyone who was new had a great time. So then after the Mutant Massacre, then Friday, there was a big multi-group scenario. And this is akin to the one you touched on earlier, the America Chavez from last year, the Multiversal Meltdown or whatever it was called. This year, the scenario was called Triple Threat, and it revolved around these. It essentially kind of brought the core set back and used the 3 villains from the core set, Rhino, Claw, and Ultron, to kind of play with different groups. And it was kind of multiversal still. So they were, instead of being villains, they were all minions, but they were like mega minions, epic minions, who all had between 8 and 10 health per player. And we say per player, there was usually 3 groups, so 3 tables playing a game between 3 and 4 players. My group, and I think you were playing at my table, we had 4 people, and we had 2 other tables of 4 that were in our like little multiverse. And so these 3 villains were passing between the games. So generally, each of the tables in our multiverse had one of these in play at any given time.
Yep. So instead of last year where America Chavez played kind of multiverse with the entire room, this multiverse was more just within your row of tables. Like Boomer said, it was like 3 groups per table, per row table. So these villainous minions were reaching up there in the hundreds of health. And they just got passed between us, and we had to each take turns doing as much damage as we could per minion.
So I'll just kind of talk through these cards quick. The first one's Rhino. He is a 1-scheme, 3-attack minion with 10 per player hit points. So in our multiverse, that meant he had 120 hit points. And he has a Force Interrupt, which is when this minion or the villain attacks, the attack gains overkill. And then when defeated, each identity gains a tough card, and you flip it. And then on the back of it, it becomes an attachment that attaches to the villain that you're playing. We were playing Crossbones, I think, right?
I thought it was Taskmaster.
Oh, no, that's right. We did play Taskmaster. Yep. So then this gets attached to Taskmaster, and then it's a Shadow of Rhino attachment, which just says +1 attack, and the attached villain's attacks gain overkill. So you want to defeat Rhino, but as soon as you do, the villain you're fighting becomes more powerful. Claw, similarly, just talk through these quickly. Claw's a 2-scheme, 1-attack minion with 8 per player hit points. He's villainous, and he gets an extra boost card every time he attacks, so he was attacking similar to the core set villain with 2 boost cards. And then when he's defeated, he flips over, and then every time he attacks, they get an extra boost card. So the villain is becoming more and more powerful. And the last one is Ultron. He is a 2-scheme, 2-attack minion, 10 per player hit points again. And he has a force response that after the villain phase begins, each player places the top card of their deck face down in front of them as a drone minion. And then he flips, and he has the Shadow of Ultron attachment that says, force interrupt, when attached villain attacks you, discard the top 3 cards of your deck. So as the game goes on, right, depending on which one you defeat in the multiverse, if our table defeated Rhino, for example, then everybody in our multiverse would gain this attachment, and all the villains are getting worse. So you're fighting the villain as normal, but you also are fighting these minions. You can't win the game while any of these minions are in play, so you really had to take care of them before you could even take care of your villain, or kind of simultaneously. So kind of overall with the scenario, Kiko, like what did you think about this? How did you feel about this kind of event?
I always enjoy the multiversal events because I like the interactions and engagement with other groups, other players. This one, I think, was a little tough in the sense that each of these minions, again, their health scaled with the number of players within your row of tables. So that could be kind of skewed from the start. Some groups might have 2. Some groups, like for us, all 3 of our groups had 4 players. So Ultron, for example, was at 120 health, which was shared between us, right? Maybe we'd do some damage, and then Ultron would get passed on to another group, and it would be the same number of health, but it was also dependent on which groups could dish out that damage. So,
yeah,
it was fun, right? Because of course you're playing Marvel Champions, you're playing with a group, but it did kind of it took a little time to kind of gain some traction there, because you of course had your normal villain that you were fighting against. We had Taskmaster. The other 2 groups had whoever they were fighting against, plus these minions that had a ton of health. So it just took a little time, I think, to just kind of get up there, but it was fun.
Yeah, in theory, I like this event the most. I liked the Multiversal one last year a lot that had America Chavez and Kang. In practice, unfortunately, I think this is my least favorite of the 3 this year. It was a fun idea, but the amount of health that the minions had and the way they came into play when they switched between tables made this scenario drag a little bit for me and made it feel a little grindy. So I think by the end of it, I was ready to be done. I would probably maybe scale the hit points back a little bit just so it doesn't drag. But in theory, it was fun. The cards are fun. And I do like that you're interacting with other groups playing the game. That's a cool thing.
I think it was really cool to have that throwback, to the core set, like seeing Ultron, Rhino, and Claw essentially teaming up, joining forces to fight against all of us. So
yeah, I like that throwback. I really like the event, like I said, in theory, and I like the interaction between tables. That's cool. And it's one of the experiences that makes the con, right? I think all the events kind of do that, but I can only get this experience at the con with playing with 3 other tables and across a convention hall with 20 tables, right? So it's really fun to get that con experience that you can only get at the con.
At the con, yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. So that was the Triple Threat Multiverse scenario. After that, there was just open play, and we played until Game Center closed at 11 p.m., and then they had the room at the hotel that was open until 1 a.m., so after the convention hall closed, I think most of the local people, many of them, kind of went home, and then we went back to the hotel, and I played a little bit longer. On Friday, it was a long day of games, but it was really, really good.
It was the place to do it,
Yeah.
Con of Heroes. But no, like you pointed out, it was really cool that they had a room reserved for us at the hotel so that you could play before and after hours of Game Center. So it really was just a full day of gaming if you so choose.
Yeah, if you're into that, and my guess is you are if you travel to the con, then you could play all day. So then Saturday, Game Center opened a little bit earlier. is at a 10 a.m. open, and the Con of Heroes campaign started at 10:30. So we played at the hotel in the morning. Breakfast started at 8. People played until the Game Center opened, and then we walked over to the Game Center and got settled in and picked your group for the campaign and got all set up, and then we jumped into it. The campaign this year was Danger Room training, so it was kind of X-Men themed, which, we're at the end of the third wave of X-Men, X-Force, X-People wave, and so it was, I think, thematically appropriate, given how many X-Men we just had.
I agree.
And this one you had to pick your own scenarios. So you got your group together, and then you picked between 1 and 5 scenarios that you wanted to play in whatever order for the campaign. So my group did not have any X-Men themed scenarios, but we just played 3 scenarios that we enjoyed, and this kind of added some stuff. So it added environments, which were kind of interesting. They were all training environments to simulate the kind of Danger Room environment. Every time, so you would pick one at the start of the game to put into play, and then when you completed it, it had some kind of response on it. And when you completed the card, then you flipped it over and it became a benefit. So, for example, there was one called Suppressing the X Gene. I'm not going to read all of these, but I'll just read one as an example. So it's an environment, and it says increase the cost of the first card played each round by 1. That's pretty nasty. The force response says, after the first card is played each round, place 1 training counter here. Then, if there are 1 per person training counters here, flip this card. So, it's essentially 3 rounds or 4 rounds, depending on how many people you have. And then you flip it over, and on the other side it says Enhanced X Gene, action, exhaust Enhanced X Gene, choose a player. Reduce the resource cost of the next card that player plays this phase by 1. Any player may trigger this ability. You can kind of see they all work together, and they're kind of flip sides of the same thing, right? It makes your cards more expensive, then you flip it, and it makes your cards cheaper. It's essentially a helicarrier for the table. So they all had kind of stuff like that, and there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. So depending on how many scenarios you played, you had that many of these cards in play by the end. What did you think of this one, Keiko?
I liked the added difficulty in the different negative effects that each of these had, because depending on who you're playing, I think it kind of affected that hero more so than others. But you play enough of these rounds, or enough of these games, that essentially each hero in your group will be affected more so, more than the other, depending on which of the negative effects that you choose as a group.
Yeah.
Like I was playing X-23, and one of the negative effects was you can't heal. Instead of healing, you put those number of tokens on the card until you reached a certain point, you flipped over, and I don't remember the benefit to it.
The one you're talking about is called Pushing the Limit, and it says friendly characters can't heal, and then the response is after an identity takes any amount of damage, place an equal number of training counters here. Then if there are 5 per person training counters here, flip this card. And then on the backside, it's stretched limits. It has force response. After this card enters play, place 1 per person training counters here, and then as an alter ego action, you can remove 1 training counter from here and ready your identity. So it essentially means, right, you can flip down exhausted, use the alter ego action to ready yourself, and then recover. You could even do it again next round. So it was kind of a cool card, and they did, like you said, they affected heroes differently. So, and you got to choose as a team which one was going into play. So that was fun, little negotiation, like who's going to be affected the most and how fast do you think we can get rid of this, stuff like that. That I think is really interesting in a multiplayer game. Were you in my group for this one? I don't remember.
I was, yes. It was you, me, and Mr. Meesons, actually. And I think this time we were playing Crossbones.
Right. We played Crossbones, and we played The Hood for one of the scenarios.
I forgot about Hood, yep.
And we played, what was the third scenario we played? I don't remember. Doesn't matter. We played 3 scenarios. I only remember 2 of them. I played, as I said at the top, 27 games this weekend, so a lot of them are running together. I'm very tired. We are recording this on Monday after the con, so both of us got home late last night on Sunday. Kind of half day was travel for me. Last year we recorded at the Con of Heroes, but This year, I just wanted to be able to really focus on playing more, and it was a lot louder at the con, so audio equipment was a little less capable, I think. So we decided to just record after.
It was also our first con not being locals, too,
True.
so it was a little more difficult to coordinate with that. But we had more opportunity, I think, to interact with different people in different groups. I think we've become a little more established as a podcast this time around. Last year, we had just started. I think we were maybe 2 or 3 episodes in.
Yeah.
So this time it was like, hey, like let's join, let's play a game more. The community as a whole has been growing, like you said. I think they're becoming more connected. The Discord's growing bigger. So it was just more engagement this time around, I think, and it was in our benefit to just kind of interact more, connect with everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously we're by no means famous, and we're by no means the largest content creators in this Marvel Champions space, but we did get recognized a little bit, and so I had a lot more people asking me, hey, can we play a game? Hey, they wanted to chat, and I love the interaction. I love talking to people. So everyone that I met and I played a game with, thank you. I really enjoyed all of them. Everyone that I didn't get to play with, I'm sorry. Let's play a game on TTS, or let's play in person at the next con. But yeah, it was great. I played really, I think, about the maximum number of games I could play. On Saturday, I ordered food and just ate at the table while we played, and I don't think I ate dinner at all. I just had some snacks here and there, and I don't really think I took a break from the game from 8 a.m. until 1 a.m. So Saturday was very, very busy. I played a ton of games, had a ton of fun. So talking about the events, that was kind of all the events. The rest of the time was free play, so you could play the campaign again if you wanted to, or play whatever scenarios you wanted to play in whatever groups you wanted to play them in. I just want to touch on a few of these modular sets that they included. I don't want to go through all of them. I will put a link for the page that has them all if you want to print and play them from home. If you couldn't make it, you can print and play these cards. They're free on the Con of Heroes website. So if you're looking for them, there is a link down below. I just want to touch on a few of them. So there was a new standard set, and every year at the con they have created a new standard set. I think the first year was actually called a new standard. Last year was called Standard Rivalry, and then this year was called Standard Decisions. And Standard Decisions was all about choosing what you wanted, and I thought that was really interesting. So there was 3 treachery cards in the set that I want to kind of touch on. There's also 2 minions and 2 obligations. Those are interesting, and you can look at those if you want to, but the treacheries were very, very cool, I thought. The idea of all of these treacheries is that you draw it. It is a peril card, which means you read it and do what it says by yourself without consulting the rest of the table. Each of them has a when revealed effect that gives you a choice. And so the first one is called Sadistic Choice and has an image of Spider-Man, and he is falling and he's trying to catch either a school bus full of kids, or it looks like Mary Jane.
Yeah,
So
I think this is a throwback to Tobey Maguire's,
Yep.
When Green Goblin's dangling a bus full of school children versus Mary Jane.
And he throws them both, and he
Yep.
makes them choose.
Yep.
So in this instance, the when revealed effect says choose one. The villain and each minion engaged with you attacks you, or the villain and each minion engaged with you schemes. And the flavor text says, make a decision, Peter, Green Goblin. So it's what you said. It's a callback to that film, I think. And, you have to choose by yourself, are we letting them attack or scheme? The second card is Friend or Foe. And it says, when revealed, draw a card. Each other player may draw a card, then choose one. So, you draw a card, and then you ask other players if they would like to draw a card. And they can choose to draw a card or not. Then, whoever has the card chooses either each player that drew a card this way discards an ally they control, or each player that drew a card this way discards an upgrade they control. So, players have drawn cards not knowing what they may be forced into, which is pretty nasty. And the last one is called Pun from the Past. I imagine it says Run from the Past, but it has a little Deadpool tape on it. It says Pun from the Past, has Deadpool in the art, and it says, Peril, when revealed, choose one. Search your collection for a copy of Shadow of the Past and resolve it, or shuffle this card into the encounter deck, then deal yourself 2 face-down encounter cards. So this card is the nastiest one, and this is the one I drew this card, I don't even know how many times, so often. And choosing if you want to resolve Shadows of the Past or shuffle this card into the deck and then do yourself 2 more encounter cards, of which, you might get this one, is a crazy hard choice, and really, if it comes at the wrong time, can really screw up your game. So, what did you think of these cards and kind of the standard decisions encounter set overall, Keiko?
So, Friend or Foe was the one that got drawn the most during the games that I was playing, and I think that one was my favorite. It's the most easygoing. So you draw a card, and then everybody else chooses whether or not they want to draw a card. But for those who didn't know what was to come, they couldn't be told what was to come because it's a peril card. So it was just like, do you want to draw a card? And you're just kind of sitting there like, I don't know, do I? And they're like, well, it's up to you. Can't say anything. And then you do, and then, you choose whether or not to discard an ally or an upgrade. And most of the time that I was playing, at least, nobody really had an ally out, so that one kind of whiffed. You just got a free card. But I do have a question about Pun from the Past. So one of the choices is search your collection for Shadow of the Past. Does that imply that, say you were playing with a group and somebody else was using their standard set, right? Their own Shadow of the Past, and they're playing blah, blah, blah. You draw this card, you have to search your collection for your Shadow of the Past. Does that mean that there becomes 2 Shadows of the Pasts in the encounter deck? It gets shuffled in because you had to search your collection?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I don't think... So this is meant to replace the standard set. So if you're playing the game, this is the standard set you're using. So you wouldn't have Shadows of the Past in the game.
Got it.
But it will then enter the game, right? Because it doesn't say resolve it and then remove it from play. It just says resolve it, and it's going to go back in the encounter deck. So, it could happen multiple times then.
Okay.
So, then there was one called Tough Choices, and Tough Choices is essentially what I just talked about, those 3 cards, but there's now 8 of them, or there's 4 of them and 2 copies of each. So, Friend or Foe, like you just mentioned, Keiko, is one of them, and then there's 3 others that have bad effects. And it's the same idea, right? So there's 8 of those cards. That's a fun little mod set, and I could see myself throwing that into multiplayer games. I definitely think these are both mod sets I would use. What do you think about this one?
I think I'd also use these, yeah. No, these were a lot of fun.
Agreed.
Because it's just more interaction with the table.
Yeah,
and it's different from our usual encounter sets or mod sets that we're usually throwing into our villains. No, these were fun.
Yeah, and I like the fact that they're different, right? If you play the game a lot, you know the mod sets pretty well. And so anything that mixes that up is always a good time, especially if they're tricky like this.
Yep. And it's exciting, right? Because you're tempted to draw a card, an extra resource or an extra upgrade or whatever it is that you might want to get, but you don't know what the result is going to be.
Yeah. And the theme of the con, was all about choices, and the information they had sent out beforehand kind of teased some of these cards, and they said it was all about choices and making decisions. So the last mod set that we played and that we were given and that you can find at the print and play site is I think maybe the signature one of this year. It is the most kind of evocative of that choice. I know this is one that you really enjoyed and really wanted to talk about, so why don't you introduce this one, Keiko?
Yes, so Shapeshifted, the modular set. The one card, I think my favorite card of the entire con this year that I'll touch on is called Higher Evolution, and it's a treachery. But all of it is blank. The when revealed is blank, the boost effect is blank. But the thing is, during the con, every single person was provided a sticker set of varying when revealed effects and varying boost effects. So the idea is that you draw this card from the encounter deck and it's blank. Well, now you as a group have to choose which when revealed effect of that sticker set you want to put on there. And I won't go through what they all say because there's a bunch of them, but it's cool that you all choose as a group and that becomes the new when revealed effect, and then it gains surge, right? And then same thing for a boost. When it gets drawn for a boost, you all choose as a group what boost effect you want to have, and then it gets put back in the deck. And then when it comes back, whatever you chose as a group is that card's new when revealed effect or that new boost effect. And the cool thing about it is it's per individual, right? So you're playing in a group and you're playing with one individual's shapeshifted modular set. Well, if you play with somebody else, they might have a different combination of when revealed effects or boost effects. And it's just so depending on which group you're playing with or which person you're playing with, there are different combinations of these when revealed effects and boost effects. So to me, that was my favorite card.
Yeah, and so as you play the game, right, you're choosing which stickers to add and which stickers not to add. And so everybody who played this set at the con will go home with a slightly different mod set than everybody else. Like, there's only so many options, I guess, ultimately, because there's only so many stickers, but they won't all be the same, which is kind of cool. And I think that really does kind of bring that decision point home, and I think it creates stories that, I mean, even in past years, I've gone home and played with the con sets, and it evokes a memory, right? It evokes the time that I was playing the Multiverse event with Kang and Maria Chavez and whatever happened. And I think this one really brings those stories and those memories home even more, because it's like, oh, that's right, that was the time that so-and-so decided to put this sticker because this is the situation we're facing at the time and we needed this instead of that. So I think that really evokes that and brings that out, and that's a really, really cool idea. And I really hope they do this again, because I thought this was really cool. What'd you think?
No, I agree. This was my favorite set, I think, my favorite card. Even the set that I brought home myself, I didn't use mine. Everybody else I was playing with happened to use theirs, so I still have my full sticker set and these blank cards. So should I play with anyone else or even play solo, when I draw these cards, I can start my own new combination of the different when revealed effects and the different boost effects. So like you said, everybody's got something slightly different. So I very much enjoy that. It's never the same higher evolution card that you're drawing each time.
Yeah, it's really cool. I didn't actually use mine either. I played with everybody else who was using theirs. So my set, actually all my cards are still packaged. I haven't opened any of them at all, but when I get them out and when I finally do get around to playing with this mod set the first time, right, I'll create a story with it. So I'm going to kind of save it for the right time that I really want to, with a group that I want to play with, and create some memories. It's really cool. Okay, so that was kind of the events and the cards that we kind of went through. That was a little long, but the last thing then is I just wanted to talk through kind of what we brought, like we each packed heroes and we each packed stuff, and I wanted to kind of ask you a few questions and we can both talk about them. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is the decks that we brought, and then kind of talk about what we played and or enjoyed the most out of that group. So I'll go first. I brought 5 decks. I brought Rogue in protection. I brought Vision in protection and aggression. I brought War Machine in justice. I brought Bishop in leadership. And I brought Star-Lord in pool. That was my collection that I brought, and I played all of them. I played every single one. I think War Machine I only ended up playing one time. I don't know why. I quite like that deck, but the other ones I played a lot. I played a lot of Vision, obviously, and surprisingly, though, the one that I played the most was Star-Lord Pool, and I didn't expect that. It was a deck that I put together and decided to bring, I don't know, whim, but it was like one of the later additions to my roster, and I just kept playing it. It was a ton of fun. It was effective. It didn't blow up in my face too much, so it managed to kind of straddle what pool sometimes doesn't, that risk and reward. And I just kept playing because it was so fun. I didn't see anyone else, who I played with at least, played Star-Lord. I played with a few pool players, but no other Star-Lord players. That is not to say that Star-Lord wasn't there. I don't know, but just not in the games I played. So that's what I brought, and then I ended up playing the most. What about you, Keiko?
So I brought pretty much exactly who I said I was going to bring during the Symbiote episode. I brought Hulk, Spider-Woman, of course. I brought X-23, And then I also brought Peter Parker and Magic. I know I kind of like threw those at the end of that episode, like, maybe I'll bring those. I did end up bringing those. And I also brought Ironheart. I didn't bring any villains. I was just kind of banking on everybody else having villains, and I would just kind of jump in a game. But for Peter Parker, I had Protection. Ironheart, I had Justice. And then the main three, the big three, Spider-Woman, Hulk, and X-23, I had Aggression. And then for Magic, I didn't have anything built out. I just kind of threw her in the bag. I kind of threw some protection cards in there as well, and I just kind of threw her together, tried her out for a game. Wasn't feeling it too much. I'd like to try Magic again, but maybe a different aspect. But for me, the biggest highlight was X-23. This was the first time I was able to play with more than just myself. So I got to finally see her shine and play with multiple people, different groups, and she really does fit my playstyle, I think, 100%. Like, you get rewarded for taking damage, and then you ready up, and you just deal more damage, you just build her attack. No, she was super rewarding to play, and it's super rewarding to see played.
Yeah. I knew you would love X-23, and like we said in the Drax episode a while back, you really have to try Drax because he is very similar to that. X-23 feels like kind of Drax 2.0. So if you like X-23, you probably really like Drax too.
Yeah, no, I still need to try Drax. I did promise I was going to do that. So
yeah, it's just to take damage, attack over and over again, and that's your whole thing. You know, you don't like defending, you then take hits to the face, and you want to dish out hits to the face, and that's it. So, yeah, and you got the X-23 promo card.
Yes, I did. So that was out of the whole con, out of the raffle, out of the interactions, whatever it may be. The one thing I wanted was the X-23 promo cards.
The alt art promo.
The alt art promos, yes.
And you got, I think it was Joss Saru from the Road to Nowhere podcast. He had one that he was willing to give out.
Yep.
And he gave it to you.
Yep, he just called me right on over. I think you might have had something to do with that, a little bit of a connection there. But I'm sure you expressed that this was like the one thing I was looking for, and yeah, he was like, "Hey, here, take it."
Yeah.
And I was like, "What?"
He said he had a couple extra promos, and I was like, "Oh, do you have X-23?" Because I know Keiko's looking for it, and he looked through. He said, "Yeah, I got it." So
I was like, I was super thankful. I felt bad because I was in the middle of the game, so I kind of got pulled out of that. So I was trying to like, they're waiting on me now. But I was like, oh, thank you so much. Like, this was the one thing I was looking for this whole con.
Yeah. Anyway, Josaru, good dude. Listen to his podcast. It's called The Road to Nowhere. They talk about the Solo Champions League, but it's good people. And that's really what the con's all about. Like, everybody at the con that I met was really generous, really nice, really helpful. Nobody is a jerk. Nobody is, out to make anyone's day miserable. We're all in it together, and it's a small community, and the community is great. Online too, I think it's a very welcoming community, but in person, everybody is very friendly, very kind. So, nothing but good things to say.
Super. Yeah, such an understatement too. Like, they super friendly. There were no fights, all smiles. People were giving out each other's prizes. Like, oh, hey, you can have this. They were giving out things for free, just like their own custom designs or their alt arts. Everybody was taking breaks together, going to eat lunch and dinner together. Like, you and I kind of went with a big group. We all went and got pizza together for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, it was super welcoming.
Yeah,
I love this community. And it's still growing,
Yeah.
So I'm sure ittle be bigger for sure next year.
Yeah, so if you're listening to this and you are on the fence and you're not sure if it's worth it, you're not sure if you want to go, I can't tell you if it's worth it or not. If you don't live locally, it's obviously expensive. But what I can tell you is everybody there from the very first time I've met any of them has been generous and kind and welcoming. And so if you haven't been to a con before, there's a couple people I met. This is the first con they've ever been to of any kind.
Yep,
I met the first con of Heroes. And they all said, I was nervous. I'm not sure what to expect. But they also then said at the end, totally great. Everyone's awesome. We'll 100% be back. So that's always great to hear.
Yeah, even if you don't know anybody, everybody's welcoming. They'll let you in the group. Nobody said no to my Hulk, Nobody even made a face to it. They were just like, yeah, play Hulk. So I was like, all right. With symbiote suit.
Yeah, I have classic. Do you have a favorite deck that someone played with you, or a memorable one, or do you have a memorable game even that you played in?
I do. It was actually the last game I played before I had to head off. I think he goes by the username Sleepy Hulk. Very fitting for me, you know.
Yeah.
But he was playing this rocket deck, and he was making use of this dive bomb into the fray.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was just wiping the board. We were playing. I don't remember if it was Venom Goblin or just Green Goblin, but either way, bunch of minions. Right, the board is getting filled. Minions are coming out. We almost lost to the main scheme a few times because none of us were playing Justice. But we managed to squeeze through. He was clearing the board for us, and then getting some threat on top of that. No, he was a highlight to that game. It was a lot of fun.
I played in a Vision Quest game where everybody played Vision, but a 4-player game with each of us playing Vision. So I played Vision in Pool. Someone else played Vision in Protection. Someone else played Vision in Aggression. And someone else played a Vision sidekick deck, so leadership, with Vision as the sidekicked ally. So the leadership Vision. So lots of Vision. We played against Ultron, so androids everywhere. And, you know, we called it the Vision Quest game or the Oops All Vision game, but it was so fun. You know, we talked about it online beforehand, and as much as I talk about Vision, it's become kind of a joke, but, you know, people were excited about it, and so we played. And going into it, I had private reservations. I thought, you know, this might be a little, I don't know, we're all going to have the same weaknesses, and kind of it may just not be that enjoyable. But it was one of the most fun experiences I've had at any of the cons, and definitely of this con, because it was silly and weird, and we were all just having fun. One of the people who played, it was his first time playing Vision at all, and another guy played a repurposed Vision deck. So in the last turn, he repurposed some tech with Vision, and then everybody else at the table rebooted him like 5, 6, 7 times, so he did like 60 damage or something, and it was just whimsical and silly and weird and exactly what we all wanted, and we all laughed and had a great time. And, you know, so I know it's a bit of a meme. I talk about Vision all the time. I'm doing it less on purpose, but stuff like that. And I know last year there was a 4-player Hulk game that someone organized. You know, stuff like that is just dumb and fun, and as long as you're laughing and having a good time, like, that's what this is all about. So I won't forget that game for a long time. And the 3 people I played with were, their usernames are Mr. Self-Destruct, V. Jackson, and Band of Sirens, I think. So look them up. They're cool people, and they played a great Vision game with me, and thank you. So yeah, that's, I think, my number one memory of kind of the most fun thing I had this weekend. It was more fun than it had any right to be, 4-player Vision, but it was a great time. All right, well that's kind of everything. Is there anything else you want to say about the con before we sign off here, Keiko?
No, I don't really have anything. It was, I think, a different, interesting perspective seeing it from non-local versus last year as a local. Like, everybody was together at the hotel, in the lobby. Yeah. Everybody was hanging out outside the con, outside of Game Center. No, this was a great place to make connections, make new friends. Everybody's asking each other's usernames on Discord. I'm sure they're going to connect, and they're going to play online later, you know, and everybody's excited to see each other again next year. Mm-hmm. And again, even if you don't know anybody, everybody's welcoming. Everybody's going to let you in their games. And there's even, you know, swag from past cons, you know, if you wanted past con coins or past sets. Like, no, I think it's worth it experience-wise to come out and see it. Obviously, however else you can work out any finances or all that stuff, but
yeah,
no, it's they give you a lot of time to prepare and look into it. I'd say it's worthwhile looking into if you're into Marvel Champions. Like, this is the place to be, I think.
Yeah, if you're into Marvel Champions and you didn't go, hopefully you're in some of the Discords. There's a number of different Discord channels. If you don't know what those Discord channels are, send us an email, winninghandpodcast@gmail.com, or you can hit me on Discord. I'm Boomguy, BOOMGUY, just like it sounds. If you want to hit me up, either of those places, if you're looking for Discords, I think there's 4, 5, 6 different Discords, depending on what you're into, maybe even more than that. There's a dedicated Solo Champions League. There's a dedicated custom content Discord. Then there's 4 or 5 of the main Discords. There's different regional ones. So if you're into the game and you're not in Discord, I'd recommend checking it out because there's a ton of community there, lots of conversations. People meet up and they play games there online, or they find local groups. So if you don't know what those are, please hit me up. I will be happy to talk you through any of it, send links, and invite you to the servers. But yeah, I would very much recommend you go, like Keiko said. I think I can't tell you your finances and your work schedule or whatever's going on in your life, but I can tell you that if those things are okay with you and you have the time and you have the money and you're curious about it, definitely go.
It also gives you a chance to meet other people too, aside from other fans. If you wanted to meet like Nelson Plays, the Critical Encounters podcast, MCM, even creators from Fantasy Flight, for Marvel Champions. And
yeah, good point.
Just other designers. We were there. Obviously, we were the VIPs. Obviously, we were the big dogs there. But no, it was just a great place to meet other people.
Yeah. I forgot to mention Caleb, Grace, and Tony Fanchi, the main designers of the game, both stopped by and mingled for a number of hours and talked to people and hung out, and that was great. They also brought some marketing people and some people from the OP stuff to come talk to us all. That was really, really great. So, this year it was at Fantasy Flight, or just across the street from Fantasy Flight Games, so they came over and said hi, and they've come all 3 years, I think. So totally great, and the community's awesome. So that, I can't say enough good stuff about it. It's a great time, and I have gone 3 times. I will for sure be going again. And we hope you enjoyed the episode. I hope you liked everything we had to say. I will put links for stuff, down below if you're listening on YouTube, or I'll put it in the show notes if you're listening on whatever podcast platform you're on. As I always say, if you listen this far, if you enjoy the podcast, please think about leaving a 5-star review. Think about leaving a written review. That stuff really helps. We don't make money on this. I don't have an advertising budget, but people reviewing it positively does help us get it in the podcast charts. If you like the podcast and you think someone else might like it, send them a link. This is just a podcast by fans, for fans, which is all just our hobby and our community. Just like the people who organize the Con of Heroes itself, they're not paid for this. They're all just fans who like it, who put in their own time and their own energy to make it happen for all of us. So, yeah, just join the community, enjoy it. I hope if you went to the con and you played with me, you had a great time. And, that's it for this episode. Just a recap. We'll be back next Tuesday with our normal episode that we have scheduled. So come give a listen if you enjoy. And I hope to see everybody next year. So that's it, everyone. Have a great one.
I'll be seeing everybody in their sleep.